Well, hello again. I think what we're going to do is start this video out by removing the tape from the audio output transformer where I put that liquid tape back here to hold those wires. You remember how flimsy those wires in the last video was. If you haven't seen that, go back and check it out, you know. So let's go ahead and take the tape off. Let's see if it seems to be a lot stronger now than it was. I'll tell you, that liquid tape, you can't beat it. I primarily use it for strength for wires, you know. Anyway, I'll take that last piece off in a minute, but as you can see, remember how loose and floppy they used to be? I can move the entire chassis again with them, okay? Great stuff. All right, we'll get around to removing the other one, that last piece later on, but right now what we're going to do, this is going to be a little fun thing here. We've got the primary hooked up, and I got it secured. And I think what I'm going to do is I've got myself a brand new orange pen. Yes, sir. The wife came out and said, why don't you use this pen here? It's a lot finer tip, but it'll do the trick. Okay, we hooked up the primary like so. It almost looks like a red almost, but it's not. And let me see, we've got the primary hooked up right here. Now the secondary is right here on our audio output transformer, and it goes down to the plug on the chassis that runs out to the speaker. 2 wires go to the field coil and 2 wires go to the voice coil, and there's a slight ground here. I went over this in the last video. Now the question is, here's the question. I have this thing numbered pin 2 and 3. I'll darken it up here a little bit so we can see it. Pin 2 and 3. And then I have pin 1 and 4. 2 and 3 to the voice coil. Pin 1 and 4 to the field coil. Now how do I know those are right? How do I know this is pin 2 and 3 on that plug and this is 1 and 4? Well, let's go over here and take a look at the plug. Let me get this wire out of the way. This is our power cord wire that goes to the primary of the power transistor. All right, let's take a look down here at this plug in the corner. Now you see we've got 4 connectors, 1, 2, 3, 4. But all these other tube sockets, this was pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And is it the same for over here? It looks a little different. We don't have 5 tube socket pins. We've got this one right here, but that's just a terminal. Well, let's take a look at the rectifier tube socket. Now there's our 80 tube rectifier socket, and you'll remember I put a mark right here on the bottom of the socket between the 2 large holes and counted to the right clockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 2 large holes and 2 small holes looking down from the top. Well, let's look down from now. These are totally different. See, this is a nice uniform, you know what, we got 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. We don't have that down here. We just got this mess. So which one is the key? And now this will have 2 large holes and it'll have 2 small holes. So let's take a look at our picture one more time at the top of our chassis. Alright, here's our socket, and now we're looking at the top of the chassis. Here's where the power transformer is. And here's where that plug plugs in. It goes out to the speaker. And what we have here is 2 pins that are pretty far apart. We have 2 pins that are close. Or you can say we have 2 pins that are far apart and 2 pins that are close. You know, this picture does not tell us anything, as each one of these appear to be the same size. So we got ourselves a problem. Now we do have 1, 2, 3 that kind of looks sort of halfway together, and then one sitting over here by itself. This is really confusing. You know, they didn't show 1 large, 1 small, or anything. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's go to the top of the chassis. Remember, we're trying to figure this out. you know, you're looking at these older schematics, the very old schematics, they just don't give you the information. They could have just as easily marked this 2, 3, 1, 4. They could have marked it anyway, which would have helped us. And you've got to get the connections right, because if you get them wrong, you're going to be hooking up the output of the audio output transformer to the field coil. We don't want that. We want it to the voice coil on the speaker. Let's go to the top of the chassis. Right here is our 80 rectifier tube socket. You can clearly see that these two holes here are larger than these two. Now we move over to the speaker socket, and you see that they're almost all the same size. However, I don't know. Yeah, some people might say, well, this and this, these two are bigger than these two. I don't know. It could be just from the plug being, taken in and putting out, just sort of got reamed out. I don't know. Let's look at something else that might help us now. We do have these two further apart here, and we have these two closer together, okay? So let's take a look at something else that might help. So here's a website, Star City Antiques Radio and Test Equipment, that shows you how to set up a dummy speaker in your shop with a field coil. And he shows you how to wire it and everything, and he shows you a 4-plug, a 4-pin plug. Let's zoom in here a little bit. And he shows you that 2 of the holes are larger, and if this were the, it would look almost like an 82 rectifier socket. You got your 2 holes, and of course your key is right between them, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 counting clockwise. Unfortunately, that's not the way our plug is set up. Now here's another one over here. Let's see if there's anything different. No, we still got the 2 large. And let me see. Boy, it would have been nice if it was been set up like that. Large and small, large and small, large and small. Well, this really isn't helping us, but I think it's a good idea for y'all to remember that this website does exist. And it does show you some things. So what do we do now? I'll tell you what, let's go back under the chassis and take another look. Alright, now normally a person would be very confused by now. And it is confusing. You've got 4 holes all the same size. There's really nothing to show you which one's number 1, number 2. It's an old radio dating from 1931. You don't want to make a mistake. Now, when I first removed the wires from this socket here from the audio output transformer, the wires were connected here. One of the wires was connected here, and the other wire was connected here. Now I could just go ahead and take these 2 wires and connect them back up and say, there you are, it's connected up. But that wouldn't teach you anything, wouldn't show you anything. I would say, yeah, I'd look like a hero. Oh, I got them connected, I'm good to go. Well, we don't know which is which, to tell you the truth. And this is a factory solder job right here. Take a look at that. Now here's the thing that really gets you screwed up sometimes. That's a factory solder job. This is a butcher job that somebody did. I don't know what that is. That is a mess. So here's the question. Do I trust this one and this one that were soldered up to the audio output transformer? If this one's all butchered up, were these 2 right? Can't afford to take the chance, guys. Can't take the chance. So what do? Well, we're lucky. We still have the speaker and we still have the plug. That's what we're going to look at next. I'll tell you what, before we look at the speaker, why don't we just go ahead and extract all this solder and crap off of here and get these brown wires and this black wire. This black wire probably went to the choke originally, or one of the connections up near the choke. That's the only reason that's there. And we'll go ahead and remove this, clean it up a little bit, and basically start with a blank slate for a speaker plug. I'll leave this ground wire here because one side, I may have to move it. I may have to move it from one pin to another, but I don't want to lose that ground wire, so we'll just leave that soldered. Let me see, that thing is soldered to this one right here. Okay, so let's clean it up. Well, here's the speaker. Yes, it is. There's nothing been done to it yet, but this is it. This is the one that came in the radio, and this is the plug for the speaker. And as you can see, we appear to have a couple that are closer together than the ones on the top, but they're kind of cocked off to the side, but all the pins are the same size. You know, so how do you determine which one is number 1, 2, 3, and 4? Which brings up the question, well, maybe they're not. Maybe they're not just 1, 2, 3, and 4. So maybe there's no way to determine that. So if that's the case, then I can go ahead and remove the numbers that I put in there. So let's do that. Let's just get rid of these numbers here, because these were just numbers I randomly selected, figuring that this one was 1, this one was 2. Well, apparently that's not true. So why mess with that? Well, what do we do now? Well, we still have to connect the secondary of the audio output transformer to the voice coil. Well, all right. What next? Okay, come on, John. Show us what we're supposed to do. Okay, I will. Here is the speaker, or here are the speaker connections. We have 2 in the center. These are the wires coming from the plug, okay? We have 2 in the center and 2 to the outside. Now you'll notice that the 2 in the center, they're the only wires there, they go up and hook to, yes, the field coil inside this metal thing. The 2 in the center hook to the field coil. Well, what we have to do now is find out which 2 they go to on the plug. Which pins do they go to on this plug? Alright, I'll tell you what, let's find out. Let's find out. These 2 wires going up into the field coil. Let's hook up a multimeter lead to one of them right here. Come on. And now we're going to hook the red lead up. Let's just start with the top and work around. Well, looky there. We got lucky. We hit it right off the bat. Let's make sure there's no other connection. There's not. There's not. And there's not. It's just this top one right here. That's cool. Okay, we have found one. So I think we better mark it with a piece of tape or something. Tell you what, let's just go ahead and mark it with this red lead. That way we won't lose track of this thing. Alright, we'll put that right there. Let the other end of it here just kind of sit over here out of the way. Now we need to find out where the other side goes to that field coil. Let me go there. Alright, well this one here, it might be this one down here. Because we've got the 2 close together here. If I can get this wire out of the way. We've got the 2 closer together here and the 2 farther apart. Chances are it's probably going to be this one right here. Let's find out. Yep, there it is right there. How about that? Let's check the rest. These are pretty dirty plugs, so it's kind of hard to make contact with it. Nothing there, and nothing there. So it is right here. Make contact again. There it is. Alright, now we know what goes to the field coil, and we also now, that just leaves the 2 outside ones, which will be, these are the ones we just tested. And we don't even have to test for the other 2. We do not. Okay, that means that the 2 inside ones, or the 2 closer ones, together are the voice coil, and the 2 further ones apart are the field coil. Is that cool? Now all we have to do is make sure under the chassis that the choke gets connected to the proper one. Alright, there's our speaker plug, and there's our 2 holes that are close together. I'm going to stick this piece of heat shrink down one side and the heat shrink down the other, like so. Those are our voice coils connection, the voice coil connections. So let's find out underneath if that corresponds to what was originally connected the way they had it. Let me see here. Well, well, well. That is not the way it was originally connected. Check this out. Check that out. The choke was originally connected to this one down here. Oh no, wait a minute, maybe I'm wrong in that. Yep, I'm wrong. Okay, it was originally connected here and here, and that's exactly where those two things are coming out. How about that? And one of these should be grounded. Let's take a look at our schematic now. Go back to our schematic. We're going to connect it here and there. Let's back up. And one of these should be grounded to the frame right there. One side of that coil should be grounded to the frame right there. So that means there should be a ground, and looky here, there's that ground wire right there. It's connected to that one right there, and we will ground it to the frame down here like so at a later time, okay? Well, there we go. We now know where to hook up the output of our audio output transformer, okay? So let's get the wires soldered up to here and there. Well, there we go, folks. We have our two secondary wires from the audio output transformer connected to the two socket terminals that were closest together. And we were able to determine that because all we did was use our multimeter, and we found that the two inside terminals here on this speaker, the terminal right here, the two inside speakers went to the two outside ones here and here, which now the two inside ones, the two inside wires went to the field coil, and they ohmed out to the two that were farthest apart, this one and this one. And of course that just left the other two to be the voice coil. It couldn't be anything else because there's only 4 wires and 4 plugs. Piece of cake all the way. We now know that the secondary of the audio output transformer is connected properly to the plug. Now we can go ahead and put a C for closest. Okay, we don't need numbers anymore. We'll just put C for closest. And these are, we'll just put a W here for wide. How's that? That's just good as any, right? Wide and closest. That'll work. All right, what we have to do now is go ahead and put in some more orange. Yes, we do. We're going to put in some orange. All right, we're going to come from here. We're going to come all the way down. Boy, that looks like red, but it's not. And then we're going to come from here on down. Now we see this little thing right here, this ground. What is that? Well, inside the audio output transformer, there's a wire that comes off the secondary and connects to the casing, okay, the metal part of the audio output transformer. And when you bolt it to the chassis, it picks up a ground, okay? So we can go ahead and do that right there. I've already ohmed out this case here to ground, good continuity all the way to the chassis, okay? All right, now this brings up our last question. It's amazing that this little speaker socket here is taking up this entire video, but you know, this speakers give people a hard time trying to figure stuff out, and I'm no different. I had a terrible time trying to figure out what was what on these stupid speaker plugs and these stupid speakers when I first started out. I said, man, this is so complicated, I couldn't understand it. Well, once I sat down and really skull-brained it, I began to realize, you know, this stuff is not that difficult. I can figure this out, and so can you. Well, let's get to the final question here as soon as I kind of clean things up. Here's the final question. This is the third time I filmed it because the first 2 times didn't make any sense. It's difficult to explain. Clearly understandable, but difficult to explain. The question is, John, you had yourself a nice little speaker and everything here, and all you had to do is take your multimeter and, you know, check between the wires and the plug, and you realized which one was voice coil and which one was the field coil. And then, of course, they corresponded to the speaker plug. Everything was easy, piece of cake. What do you do if you don't have a speaker? All you have is the chassis. What do you do then, you know? How do you know what's what down here on the speaker plug? If you don't have a speaker, the first thing you need to do is try to find a replacement. If you cannot find a replacement, and you just can't, no matter what you do, then you're going to have to convert it to a permanent magnet speaker, which I have done on a couple of occasions. But it doesn't matter. Permanent magnet or electromagnet, which is field coil, EM or PM is what they call them, okay? You've still got to hook the secondary of your audio output transformer to the voice coil on the speaker you use. It doesn't matter. And in this case, we've got the audio output transformer located underneath the chassis. Most audio output transformers later on were mounted on the speaker cone or on the speaker basket. So it was simply a matter of running the wires down into the, from here, run the wires out to this terminal strip, and then from here, out to the plug or whatever, a piece of cake. Well, and here I could have just soldered these two. I could have soldered wires to here and then solder new wires to there and run them out through a hole here to the voice coil on the new speaker that I'll be using. Or I can try to rebuild this one, which I'm not sure I can do that. It takes an awfully deep speaker. I don't know if I can come up with one like that. But anyway, by the way, the field coil and the voice coil ohm out good. That's about a 1500 ohms. Even though it doesn't say on the speaker, it doesn't say what on the field coil that's located on the speaker part of the schematic. About 1500 ohms right there. So you can pick any two you want, I guess, if you're going to convert it over to permanent magnet, because you won't be using the field coil connections. All you'll be using is the voice coil connections, and you can run wires. You'd have to solder it underneath here, make your connection. These would become nothing then but terminal connections is all. Run your wires out and connect them to your field coil, your voice coil right there, okay? But you still have to make sure that part of that thing right there is grounded, I believe. So that would still have to be grounded, I think. But you can try it either way, with the ground or without the ground. I hope I didn't confuse everybody on that. It's not just the only thing you have to remember is no matter how you set it up, just make sure that the secondary of your audio output transformer is connected to your voice coil. And if it has a ground, now they don't all have grounds, but if it has a ground, ground it to the frame, go ahead and do that. And then if you find out it doesn't work, take the ground off. You got to play around with it, okay, when you're converting over. Mishmash video coming up this weekend, guys, and I'm tired. Until next time. This is John.